Yesterday we began understanding the Alter Rebbe's introduction to the Tanya, and we were looking at how the Alter Rebbe was telling his Chassidim, really just validating their fears about how could a book possibly replace a one-on-one meeting with the Alter Rebbe. So now that he has validated their fears, we're now going to see about why the Alter Rebbe is choosing to write the Tanya as a response, really as a replacement to these one-on-one meetings. Not saying the Alter Rebbe would never meet with anyone, but he's really saying, I'm answering your questions and here's the Tanya. So one reason the Alter Rebbe is doing this is because he keeps hearing the same questions, meaning people are struggling with the same things. And so consolidating their answers into one text that everyone creating a well that many people can drink from versus giving everyone little individual cups of water is much more worthwhile for him because everyone he sees are coming with these same spiritual questions. I speak, however, of those who know me well, each and every one of the Nash of our country and those countries nearby. Right? So these are the members of the Hasidic Brotherhood. These are Chabad Hasidim, with whom affectionate words were often exchanged in private audience, who revealed to me all the hidden recesses of their hearts and mind in matters related to the service of God. He's acknowledging the beauty and the connection and the love that was experienced in these one-on-one meetings, which is dependent on the heart. To them shall my words seep through, and my tongue shall take the form of a scribe's pen, saying we already have this connection alive and well. And so instead of it being, my spoken word, it's still me. I'm just putting it in the form of a pen. I love that. My tongue shall take the form of a scribe's pen. Beautiful. Poetic. In these pamphlets entitled Kute Amarim, being compiled from books and teachers, heavenly saints who are well known to us. Some of these teachings the wise, for whom a hint is sufficient, will find alluded to in the sacred letters of our teachers in the Holy Land. Some of them I heard from their saintly mouth when they were here for us before they moved to Eretz Yisrael. Right? So meaning some of his teachers that he learned this from had now moved to Eretz Yisrael. All of them are answers to many questions posed continually by the Nash of our country seeking advice, each according to his stature in the service of God. Meaning the questions vary, right? Everyone's on their own level, but they're the same essential point. So as to receive guidance for themselves in the service of God. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe is very validating there. He's saying, yes, we have had these beautiful one-on-one interactions, and I want to keep the connection alive. And so you should see the scribe's pen. You should see when you get your copy of the Tanya that this is really me speaking to you, right? The Alter Rebbe is saying, see it as feel as if this is a one-on-one. He's almost like a very Chabad Chassid. Chabad Chassid says, I'm not going to spoon feed it to you. I believe in you, and I'm going to give you the power to achieve it. And so the Alter Rebbe is saying that I leave it to you to make this book a one-on-one experience, that you should hear, as you're reading the words of Torah, you should hear it as if I'm personally speaking to you. That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. So why is the book better? Two reasons. One, because time no longer permits me to reply to everyone individually on this particular inquiry. So everyone's asking their questions. The Alter is saying simply because I can't, meaning I cannot continue answering every single person's questions individually. And so the way I actually can answer everyone is through this book. So either he could, take half the people and feel good that he met with half the people, or he could say, I can reach everyone if I take a step back and put my answers into the Tanya. And the second, also, I love that because I think that's something that we all struggle with, is really saying, where do I want to put my time and energy? Meaning we have limited resources. We're talking about a Rebbe here. A Rebbe is someone who's hinting on the idea of infinity, right? The Alter Rebbe did with this time was extraordinary. And he's saying that I don't have the time to meet with everyone individually. He's saying he's really owning his time and acknowledging, instead of imagine Alter Rebbe had played holier than thou, God forbid, and said, no, it's bad of me to not meet with everyone individually. Really, I should. Then we wouldn't have had the Tanya, and I wouldn't get to meet with him individually every single day of my life. And so really it's the kavura, it's the restraint, the severity of knowing where my time belongs and where it doesn't. And ultimately, that's ultimate chesed. It's ultimately that gives us the ability to give. When we're able to say no to something, we're actually saying yes to something else. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, no, I don't have time to meet with everyone, practically, right? Even if he wanted to, right? And the Alter Rebbe does want to meet with everyone, but he's saying, practically, I can't. And so by giving all my time into meeting everyone, I can't reach everyone. And therefore, I'm going to put my energy into the Tanya. And also because forgetfulness is common, meaning the Alter Rebbe saw that people would come with spiritual questions in serving God. And then a few years later, they come with the same question, a different variation of it, because forgetfulness is common. We need to really have the ability, it's not like I learned Tanya once. No, every single year for every single day of the Rebbe's life, the Lubavitcher Rebbe learned Tanya. It doesn't matter what level you're on, we always want to keep involved in it. So how much more so someone who just, and it wasn't because the Rebbe forgot the Tanya from last year, it's to really always be immersed in it. And so, but how much more so, right? I'm not going to remember last year's Tanya today if I didn't actually have the book, right? If I just had this one conversation with the Alter Rebbe, so maybe I'd remember points, maybe I'd forget other points, but to have the actual physical copy means that I get to always have it to turn back to even when I forget the little details. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, don't stress. I put everything you need in the book, okay? Everything, literally any question. Always the question of like, what's the meaning of life? What's my purpose in life? All the big spiritual questions we have, they're here. I therefore recorded all the replies to all questions to be preserved as a sign and to serve as a reminder in everyone's mind. No longer will one need to press for a private audience, for in these Likutei Amarim, right, these compilations of sayings, one will find tranquility for his soul. Don't stress, Chassidim, you're going to find tranquility and true counsel in everything that he finds difficult in the service of God. Thus his heart will be firmly secure in God, who completes and perfects everything for us. The Alter Rebbe was saying even more so than when you had the personal access to come to Yechidus and ask your questions. Not necessarily would you leave with the same tranquility they're going to be able to leave with from Tanya, because I'm going to be able to answer all your spiritual questions. Maybe let's say someone had one spiritual question. Okay, great, but the Tanya is answering all of those questions that a person could have about their soul and their inner world and how to actually serve God. So what if Tanya is beyond me? Okay, Alter Rebbe, but I liked it when you watered it down for me and our one-on-one audiences. Why? Wait, what if I'm not going to understand it? So the Alter Rebbe is answering that person's question. He whose mind is too limited to understand how to derive advice from these pamphlets, let him discuss this problem with the foremost scholars of the town, and they will enlighten him. Meaning where there's going to be people who are going to be obsessed in Kach and Tanya and really allowed to master them and master it. And they are going to be the ones that you can go to really elucidate the Tanya for you. Don't play humble. The author is saying, if you're one of those people that can go and teach Tanya, or even if you know a little bit more Tanya than someone, don't play humble. Go and teach Tanya, because Tanya, like we're saying, a book is limited. A book needs to be elucidated. And many people are going to need the Tanya to be elucidated, and don't play humble. The Alter Rebbe is counting on it. Part of him writing Tanya is counting on they're going to be Tanya teachers. Of these scholars, I request that they not lay their hands upon their mouth, not keep silent when asked for advice, for fear of appearing to be proud in their knowledge, to conduct themselves with false modesty and humility. For misplaced modesty is falsehood. I love that. It is well known how bitter is the punishment of he who withholds food, who withholds Torah knowledge for he who seeks it, right? Just this way you wouldn't play humble if someone's like, do you have food and you have it? Give them the food. It's the same thing as Torah is food. We need Tanya for our daily nourishment. These are our daily vitamins, and so do not deny others. The reward. And also how great is reward granted to one who provides such knowledge. This is well known for the comment of our sages on the verse, God enlightens the eyes of them both. Meaning, I experience all this time with my students I teach in the morning in seminary. They have the most amazing questions, and it makes me really have to open the Tanya in a whole new way and go deeper. And even just the answers they have and the way they put things together and the way they connect one part of Tanya to another part of Tanya, the way they connect it to their own personal lives, it really, God enlightens the eyes of both of them. Through my efforts of trying to teach Tanya, Hashem shows me what the Tanya is really saying. Please God. It's a journey. Thus, God will cause his face to shine upon them with the light of the countenance of the King provides life. So it's actually through teaching that we gain a greater understanding. One day, we will surpass the need for turning to others for spiritual guidance. So remember, we're saying that a book is limited because it's really just every person on their own intellectual level. And so therefore, we need to turn to people who have a greater capacity of mind and heart to teach us really what the Tanya or any book of knowledge, even the Torah, is telling me. But in the days of Mashiach, this is not going to be the reality, because we will be able to look into the Torah and understand our unique spiritual path. Quote, may he who provides life to living grant us the privilege of living to see the days when no longer will one man teach another, for they will all know me, from the smallest to the greatest. So that issue we were talking about in yesterday's Tanya, about how everyone has different intellectual capacities, so we still need teachers. In the Messianic reality, we are in a full state of expansiveness where we can connect to God directly through his Torah. For the knowledge of God will fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. Amen. May this be his will. So we actually have here a pre-publication note. As the aforementioned pamphlets have been distributed among all the Anash mentioned above by means of numerous transcriptions at the hands of sundry and diverse copyists, right? So now the Alter Rebbe here himself is addressing the issue of why he's publishing it and what's been happening of, his manuscripts are being manipulated, and therefore he needs to really take into care the authenticity of the Tanya by printing it. The multitude of transcriptions have given rise to an exceedingly great number of textual errors. The Alter Rebbe is such a peaceful person. The line of Tanya, the line of Tehillim that he was actually saying when he was let out of Tsarist Russian prison was Padi v'shalom nafshi. Padi v'shalom nafshi. My soul is redeemed in peace. And the idea here is that Alter Rebbe is such a peaceful person. He learns, and it's so amazing, every single year the Yotes Kislev falls out around the parshas where we learn about Yosef. Because just like Yosef did not go and punish his brothers for the way they'd harmed him, the Alter Rebbe told his Chassidim at the time, do not go punish the people who, made the lies that put the Alter Rebbe into prison. Because the reasoning that I think the Alter Rebbe is coming from is mostly if you wrestle with someone who's muddy, you're going to get muddy. If the Alter Rebbe is going to start calling out people who are on purpose manipulating his hard worked manuscripts to make Tanya seem something that's discredited, he doesn't even want to go to that level and start messing with that. He's so beyond that. So instead he just says, there's been copy errors. These were not copy errors by accident. These were happening on purpose. Alter Rebbe was being targeted. And yet he refuses to remain the victim in that way. He says, he takes action and he's going to print the Tanya himself properly, but he doesn't go down to that level to attack them back. Here the Alter Rebbe is expressing gratitude for the publishers. Therefore, the spirit of the noble men, Rabbi Shalom Shachna and Rabbi Horowitz, mentioned on the previous page, has generously moved them to make a personal and financial effort to have these pamphlets published. Cleared of all dross and copyist errors and thoroughly checked, I congratulate them on their worthy deed. So acknowledging the publishers acknowledging that this is the clear, true version of Tanya. By the way, if someone wants to mess with something, it shows that there's something worth messing with. Like the fact that the Tanya had so much opposition, it shows what a high and holy thing it was and what a spiritual rebel the Alter Rebbe was. He was being a spiritual rebel because he knew that we needed these teachings. And so he shook both heaven and earth, going against both heaven standards and earth standards and bringing out the Tanya. And ultimately, it wasn't until Yotes Kislev, when the Alter Rebbe was let free from jail, that he really felt that the Kitruk had been lifted. Meaning, yes, there was people messing with the Tanya on a physical level, but he felt that the source of them was coming spiritually, that spiritually didn't yet have permission to spread these teachings widespread. And after his release from prison, that was the permission that, yes, we are going to need the Tanya in order to bring Mashiach. And so we need these teachings. So I feel like the Alter Rebbe doesn't feel like he needs to go and start making jabs at people who just tried to discredit his Tanya by making copy errors, because he already dealt with it spiritually. Spiritually, he is good to go with the Tanya. And so he's just taking facts, taking the practical steps, publishing it properly. And he doesn't even need to deal with the physical realms because he already dealt with the spiritual source. So here's the Alter Rebbe's clear, crisp warning. As much as the verse states explicitly, cursed may be he who encroaches on his fellow's border, and where the expression cursed is used, it implies both damnation and excommunication. Don't mess. God preserve us, right? God forbid. I came therefore only to reinforce the words of Scripture, as the Talmud cites, a mere practice in Judah, in order to reinforce an explicit scriptural statement, invoking a strict prohibition on all publishers against printing these pamphlets either themselves or through their agents without the permission of the above named for a period of 5 years from the date that the printing is completed. Meaning, as long as these original publishers are keeping the books in print, from 5 years after that original date, that is when there can be new publishers with that explicit permission. So I love the Alter Rebbe saying also, this doesn't need to be said. This isn't a new concept that you cannot go and destroy people's hard-earned work. He's just bringing the Torah sources to bring to the forefront of our mind how important it is that no one comes and messes with the Tanya. And once again, the fact that people even want to come and discredit it shows in the Tanya's holiness. And there's an amazing story of a minion of scholars who gathered, who were misnagdim. They were against the Alter Rebbe spreading Tanya. And they gathered with a whole audience because they wanted to discredit the Tanya. They were going to like poke holes in it. And they sat there reading the entire first 18 chapters in silence with this deep sadness like growing more and more. And by the time they got to the 18th chapter, they all just broke out sobbing and announced to the audience that we're sorry. We didn't realize we were dealing with such a godly man with such pure intentions. And the Tanya is, they said, the Kodesh Kadoshim, the holies of holies. And just through reading the first 18 chapters, completely switched their view. So we see the way the Alter Rebbe won his war of spreading Chassidus, it wasn't through, making jabs. It was through his true authenticity of being himself and spreading Tanya that he brought those people over to seeing the value of Tanya. Here's a blessing. It may be pleasant for those who comply, and may they be blessed with good. These are the words of the compiler of the aforementioned Likutei Amarim. So normally, after you'd write, and this is my book, the Alter Rebbe doesn't do that. It wasn't until the Alter Rebbe passed away, I think in the 8th edition of the publishing of the Tanya, that the 8th version, set of publishing of the Tanya, that his name was finally printed, that his sons put his name in, because the Alter Rebbe didn't even put his name. Okay, we're talking about such levels of humility. In this generation, though, that don't have false humility. Like the Alter Rebbe was saying, there's a time for humility, and there's a time to realize that it's false humility. But here, the Alter Rebbe was in his right and his humility, and he just signed it, Likutei Amarim. Thank you for taking the time to learn today's Tanya today. So there's an idea that every day we should take 2 ideas from Tanya. So I'm taking 2 ideas for myself. One is the idea of not living with false humility. Know Aleph, teach Aleph. And the other idea is that even when something's clear, right? Of course you shouldn't go mess with someone's book and their publishing. Bringing Torah sources always strengthens us. So you can take your own 2 points for you to carry with you for the rest of your day.